Alright, and that should have the stream started. Gonna do a real quick Monday stream. A little extra time before work today. So we'll see how many sets we get through. We stopped at Kaladesh last time, so we'll be doing Kaldheim to start off with. And Giant Creature gets +2/+2 reach and has creature types. Yeah, I'm kind of jumping right into it, but that's okay. It should have already started picking up. You boast to get power equal to 1 plus the greatest power among creatures we control. Yeah, it's not really adding to our thing. Target creature you control fights up to one target creature you don't control. Add red, put 2 counters on one target creature. Gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Nope, probably not. Can't run that. Gives out haste. Enters the battlefield, deals X damage to any target, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. 5 mana, 6/5 Trampler. Permanent you control becomes a target of a spell or ability an opponent controls. You may draw a card and has Foretell for 4. Binding of the Old Gods. Obviously, I have been, playing standard, mostly to do dailies. Like, I don't like doing constructed, but obviously if you played any standard recently on, like, Arena or whatnot, you should have run into Binding of the Old Gods a bunch. So, I'm more just considering the first line, the destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls. We have a couple of sorcery speed removal spells that are flexible, our Maelstrom Pulse and whatnot. So it's not entirely unreasonable to run Binding as, like, 1 more mana, doesn't blow up all the tokens of the same name, but still destroys the non-land permanent and then gets you a forest. Similarly to standard, I don't think the death touch on creatures is going to consistently be relevant. Maybe if we have a bunch of angry tramplers at the time. I'm going to add it to the list just because it could wind up replacing one of the other slower, flexible removal spells that we have, like sorcery speed removal spells. So Binding of the Old Gods. Alright, Bergi is the storm enabling god. Distribute X +1/+1 counters, where X is the amount of snow mana spent to cast this spell. You draw a card for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. No. Blizzard Brawl, no. Blood on the Snow, no. Changeling, what was this other thing? Oh, you choose a creature type and another creature of that type enters the battlefield. It gets a +1/+1 counter. Cast your second spell each turn, gets 2 counters and menace until end of turn. Cast a creature spell if snow was spent. Alright, it has to be the color that matches, like, it has to be snow and it has to match the color of the creature. Gets an additional counter. 3/2 haste. Like green land. Burning Rune Demon enters the battlefield. You may search your library for exactly 2 cards not named Burning Rune Demon that have different names. If you do reveal those cards, an opponent chooses one of them. Put the chosen card into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle. So with Burning Rune Demon, if we pick 2 of our bad things, they'll give us one of them and we'll put the other one in the graveyard. Or if we pick 2 of our good things, they'll pick the one that least threatens them. I suppose we can add it to the list. Hyphen, right? Rune Demon. Okay. Giant Source deals double damage. Pumps elves and taps for 3 green. Enters, or no, not enters. When it dies, it deals 7 damage to a creature an opponent controls, chosen at random. Flying Trample, pay 3 life, return Cleaving Reaper from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only if you had an Angel or Berserker enter the battlefield under your control. This isn't from the main set, right? This is like the theme deck one. Because I do not even remember that card existing. So I'm going to assume that the theme deck cards are in this list. Can't block alone. Moused over Cosmos Elixir, but I don't think we'll be using that one. 2 damage to each creature. Exile instead and foretell. Dies if it had 3 or greater power. Get a 2/2 zombie. Damage. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains when this creature dies. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Nope. Drains life each turn. Enters the battlefield. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and not menace, haste. Gonna keep adding text that's nowhere near the card and pretending that it's there. First strike, boast cost 1 less for each dragon you control, and 5 mana boast to make a dragon. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile that card with an ice counter on it instead, and you may cast spells. No. Boast, return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. Makes a 2/2 zombie and gives +2/+2 and menace. Exile a creature card from your graveyard. Target opponent loses 3 life. Gives your other cards in hand foretell, and then gets a bonus when you foretell stuff. Copies the next low casting cost spell, right? It has to be, 4 or less. For an instant, like copies instants and sorceries. Boast to drain 1. Makes a 2/1 and gives +3/+0 and trample. Makes 2 2/1s. Egon is Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile 2 cards from your graveyard. If you can't, sacrifice it and draw a card. Yeah, that's not doing much. Like, we don't want to exile our own stuff, and it's upkeep, so... Also, they would just... it's true, it's if you can't, but they still wouldn't control Egon at the time anyway. Elderfang Disciple, no. Ritualist dies. Return another target elf from your graveyard to your hand. Enters the battlefield, make a 1/1. Create a 1/1 elf warrior token for each elf you control. Takes the elf and gives +1/+2 in reach. Elves entering the battlefield makes a 1/1 once per turn, and 7 mana to give your elves +2/+2 in Death Touch. Flying Lifelink, Hexproof from Planeswalkers. When it attacks, you can pay black and 1 and sacrifice a creature. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or Planeswalker. We don't really have a lot of sacrifice fodder to begin with, so I don't see Eradicator Valkyrie being particularly good for us to have, and then we're going to lose like one of the few creatures we have that we care about if we give it out and they can activate it, so... she's 5 color on her backside. Chariot's not doing anything relevant to our deck, as good as it is. Boast to make a 2/1 dwarf. Boast to make it a 3 power first striker. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Target giant. Yeah, we're not running giants. Like, again, most of our larger creatures that share a creature type, I believe, are demons. So, whenever you activate a boast ability, put a +1/+1 counter on Raider. No. No. Vehicles, no. Death Touch guy that cares about Death Touch and is legendary, so no and no. Vehicle... Changeling. Whenever another creature named Gladewalker Ritualist enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So no, that wasn't asked to be from the thing too, right? Because I would have assumed we would have drafted a bunch of those guys during call time if we could, if that thing were in there. 3 mana, 3/3, and if you have more copies, you get to draw cards. Then again, this was the same set where we had the wolf that you could foretell and then cast for 2 mana and draw a card. And Channel is Snow and taps for more mana. 4/2 reach. That thing's way too expensive. Goldspan Dragon. We're not really making treasures outside of the Goldspan. And possibly, but unlikely, the cards that let us discard cards to draw cards that make treasure. So I don't think we need him. It's the white-black one. +1/+0 Menace. 5 mana, 5/5. Out counters. Does 1 damage to any target for its boast. Needs snow mana to pump. This one is primarily elf based, right? So you mill 3 cards, put an elf or Tyvar card from your graveyard onto the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter on each elf you control, and whenever an elf you control attacks this turn, target creature and opponent controls gets -1/-1. So yeah, none of those. Menace and lets us get elves. This is the backside of Burgi, and we don't want to cast our own spells, so that's been a consistent thing. Every time I see a card that gets card advantage by exiling and letting you cast until end of turn, it's always like, that would be so good if we ever wanted to cast our own spells consistently, or if we could just put them into the graveyard if we don't cast them. Either one of those effects would be perfectly fine, and I would accept that. Like, if this were discard a card, and then we could put the cards that we didn't cast into our graveyard, that would be perfect. We discard one of the things that we don't care about, and if we hit 2 more of them, we just let them go. And that way they're all in our graveyard to make our Beamtown Bullies better. This was choose a creature type, and then it resurrects them. Boast to get a land and put it into your hand. It's 2/+0 and indestructible. Demonstrating Predator becomes tapped. Exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and it gets a counter. And sacrifice another creature to have it gain indestructible until end of turn and tap it. Yeah, not... We basically be using it to sack the creatures that we grab back to put counters on this thing. So... okay, but not great. We should be able to do better than that. Enters the battlefield, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. Sacrifice it to deal 3 damage to target player. That player discards a card. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. No. Not interested. Beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with CMC cost equal to 1 plus the highest CMC among other permanents you control without paying its mana cost if you don't scry one. Whenever you cast your second spell, gets a +1/+1 counter and gains flying until end of turn. Enters the battlefield, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn and has foretell. So this is another one of those, we can cast it. For us, if our opponents are getting into combat and destroy one of the things that got dealt damage that we want to get off the table, and then we can also give it out to destroy one of the things. Usually we're going to have to untap the Beamtown Bullies to give them a second creature, because we'll use the first creature that we give them to be the thing that gets into combat and then gets blocked, and then put this into play to kill the thing that blocked it. type of deal. But it does have flash, which means we'll get to use it from our hand first. Oops. Hit the caps lock there. Alright, 1/2 reach and can make mana. Attacks, untap each snow permanent. Alright, we couldn't use him anyway because his staff is part blue. Carter enters the battlefield until your next turn. Creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. So he goads them without saying goaded. And whenever attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Relatively cheap. We can add him to the list. We're only getting like 1 life per turn at most. I suppose if we're untapping the thing enough times and giving out enough creatures, we're getting more than 1 life. But realistically, this is going to gain us 1 life per turn cycle, maybe 2 in a normal game. But it will also cause all of our opponents to lose 1 to 2 life also. And then it works okay with what we're doing. Like, we passed over a similar creature, like the one from the commander set that deals 1 damage when a creature that's goaded attacks, like to its controller. We're getting a little bit more out of this one. It's not always going to happen because it has to be an attacking creature that dies, but if we're giving out little stuff, then the stuff is going to die, and we're going to get it back into our graveyard where we want it, and it'll be draining a life or 2. It's mostly that it's on theme, does a thing that interacts with our cards, but is cheap, and we can cast it. We can never give him out, of course, because he's legendary. Also, he'd probably be terrible for us to give out at that point, since that would just mean that we'd have to attack one of our opponents, whichever one we didn't give, one of the ones that we didn't give him to in this hypothetical situation. Sacrifice a creature. When you do, deals 3 damage to any target. Player discards a card. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter and haste. No. Enters the battlefield, 2 target creatures get +1 power and indestructible. Until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control and gains trample. Must be blocked if able. As long as you control 3 or more legendary... Yeah, she's the legend that cares about legendary creatures, so kind of the opposite of the things we're trying to do. Makes each player mill 3 when it dies. Exile a creature card from your graveyard. Put 2 counters on target creature at the sorcery speed. Attacks, you make a treasure. Well, dwarf you control becomes tap, make a treasure. And then gets a dragon. So neither of those are really what we're doing. +4/+4 and foretells. Exile a card from your graveyard to naturalize. Makes changelings. No. Also no. Can't run it. Got better options. Run it. This is -X. -X is based on the number of snowlands you control. 3 damage to any target. If a creature dealt damage this way, gets +5 power. Opponents can't gain life. At the beginning of your upkeep, deals 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only if it's on the battlefield or if it's in your graveyard while you control another giant. If we had more giants, I might consider that, because then we can give it out to stop life gain. But I don't think we're going to have enough giants for the other ability to be relevant, and we already have Rampaging Ferocodons for the anti-life gain. We can probably find like 1 or 2 other cards. in a similar vein that will do it better than that. There's Lindworm. Alright, this is one that lets you play cards off the top of your deck that match its creature type. And create a bunch of dwarf tokens. Enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards. If at least one angel card was milled this way, gain 4 life. So probably not. Mana rock that makes mana rocks eventually. Turn target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's an elf, make 2 1/1s. This is one of those make creatures based on the number that died this turn. Search your library for a creature card with power or toughness 6 or greater, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. Okay, but not great. Mill 3 cards, return a land and an elf, or an elf. If you can't, draw a card. +3/+3 and trample. Green, black, and red runes, and the rune crown. Serolf. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Serolf. Beginning of your upkeep, if Serolf has one or more counters on it, you may remove all of them. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of counters removed in this way. So, no. Most of the time, the creatures that we have, the other creatures in combat, the blockers for the things that we're giving out to attack with, are going to die, but I still don't think Serolf is particularly good for our deck. Even at that point, it's just a 3-mana 3/3 that can get a little bit bigger, and maybe we remove the counters to exile cheaper things, but enters the battlefield, draw a card. Foretells for 0. Untap snow cards. Let's see, so you discard 1 card and draw 2. Until end of turn, it gains haste, and whenever this creature deals damage, destroy target equipment attached to it. Nope. Another non-elf or berserker you control dies, draw a card and lose a life. Up to 1 target creature you don't control gets -2/-2 and make 2 elves. No. Also sorcery speed. Enters the battlefield, loses X life, greatest creature types you control, or you gain X life. No. Nope. Spear of the Aldegard. Enters the battlefield, search your library for a snowland. Oh no. Damage. Creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, and this has Foretell. We can actually run the snow basics if we want to, the snow dual lands if we want to. They are fetchable. I think I skipped over at least one of them. But yeah, there's rarely a benefit or penalty unless you're building your deck around it for it being snow to matter. Unless we're going all in on the lands being snow, which I don't think we are. And you usually don't want to, because then that means that all of the dual lands that aren't these are less effective in your deck, because now they no longer add to your snow count. So, unless you have a decent reason for wanting snow, probably shouldn't. Attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. If it was a giant, deals twice that much damage instead. No. I do like Svella, but she's not really doing anything this deck cares about, and in fact her other ability is not that great. As is most things where it lets us cast the spell. Yeah, Tegrid. The last thing we would want to do is give one of our terrible things to an opponent and have them sacrifice it while we have Tegrid out so that we get it back. I don't think she's optional. Oh, she is optional. You may put that card. Still not anything about, like, anywhere near what we care about, so. Attacks 2 creatures. Make a 2/3 Berserker with Menace. When a Berserker attacks this turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Add red for each Berserker you control. So, no to any of those. Enters the battlefield, remove X counters, equal number of elves, or -X/-X. Beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. Black 2 tap, exile a creature card from your graveyard, draw a card. We don't really care about Tybalt and what he's doing. Creature, planeswalker, opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage. So, again, not something our deck is focused on. Tatsuki. We're not casting with snow mana. Boast to let you cast the top card of your deck by exiling it. Cares a lot about elves. And I don't think there's anything else going on with that one. Steals the card, and that's the front side of Tybalt. Blood Sky Sire. Target player searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library, then puts that card on top of it. So, nope. Creature card from the graveyard, make a treasure. Flying Death Touch Haste. Volatile Fjord. Vorinclex. We don't care about counters, so we don't really care about Vorinclex. Alright, so there are 2 other lands in this set, and I cannot remember what their names were, but we scrolled past, like, I scrolled past them, not thinking about the fact that they are, in fact, they have the basic land typings on them, which makes them more viable. Oh, there's also a 3rd page. What was on the 3rd page? Weathered Stone, Way Down, Wither Crown. Ah, Woodland Chasm. Very important that we went to that page, because that is the black-green one. Land, Woodland Chasm. We have Sulphurous Mine, so page 1 should have the red-green one. I think it's towards the top, unless that's the white-red one. Alpine Meadow. Okay, so that was the white-red one. Arctic Tree Line. Light Step. Dark Boar. Where are you, red-green dual land? This Haven. Floodplain. Nope, that is the red-green spell land. Highland Forest. Okay. Back over here. Go land. Highland Forest. Okay. And now back to this. Alright, so that was Kaldheim. Alright, Kaldheim also has a commander. Well, it has 2 commander decks. One of them was white-blue, so that deck is completely hedged out. The other one was black-green, but is very elf-focused, so I don't think we're going to find anything. Bounty of Skefmar. Reveal the top 6 cards of your library. Put a land from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and an elf from among them into your hand. Rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each elf you control and has reach. And 3 mana from your graveyard to your hand. Okay. Attacking elves have Death Touch. Whenever an elf you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Alternate artwork, Archdruid. Lathril rather. Menace. Whenever Lathril, Blade of the Elves, deals combat damage to a player, make that many elves. Tap her and tap 10 untapped elves you control. Each opponent loses 10 life and you gain 10 life. Yeah. I forget where that is from originally. The Null Mage Shepherd. Pact of the Serpent. Choose a creature type. Target player draws X cards and loses X life, where X is the number of creatures they control of the chosen type. No. Putrefy. Other risks. Beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a non-elf. Elf you control dies, exile it, tap pay 2 life. Until end of turn you may cast a creature spell from among the cards exiled with the jar. Yeah, I knew most, if not all of these were going to be elves. I was kind of hoping that there would be one or two that were not, like, elf-centric. Beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 green elf token. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to its toughness. Like, not even not elf-centric, just, something that would care about elves, but also is doing something that we care about, so that way it would actually be worth considering for the deck. Alright, so Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. There's 3 of them, so I'm going to guess the second one is Alchemy. And the third one is the Commander decks. Which, again, there's a white-blue one and a red-green one, and the red-green cares about modified creatures. So, again, low chance that we'll take anything from that, but similar to looking at the black-green elves, it's just in case there's something that we missed. Kills a creature, a planeswalker. This thing's legendary. And also isn't doing much for our deck to begin with. With a menace counter, deals combat damage to a player. You may remove it. Yeah, we don't have anything that we want to buy back, I don't think. Like, comes into playability-wise. So, the Biting Palm Ninja and the other ninjas aren't going to be interesting in that regard for, like, the ninjutsu half of them. So then it becomes, like, what saboteur effects they have attached to them that we can give out and use for ourselves. I mean, like, they're okay. Remove the count. Like, the removal of the counter is up to the opponent that we give it to later on. They probably still might want to. Also, it's going to be on board that this thing is attacking. It does get menace, though, from the counter. So if we give it out, then they will have to block with 2 creatures in order to stop it from getting through, but still seems a little on the anemic side. Neon Dynasty. Fighting Palm Ninja. One menace and reconfigure. Enters the battlefield. Top 5 cards of your library. Reveal a creature or enchantment and put it in your hand. If you don't reveal a card, gain 4 life. Alright, so Boseiju, this version of Boseiju just has so much utility that I will normally at least think about including Boseijus in all of my green commander decks. It doesn't come into play tapped. It destroys any Actually, does it specify? Destroys an artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land. Okay, so it also can't hit planeswalkers. I was thinking it was non-creature, but still, being able to destroy problematic artifacts or enchantments, or even another land and get it off of the table, like, utility land that is stopping you from winning the game or giving an opponent too much advantage. And they get a land, which, if you're playing Commander, Path to Exile gets run all the time. You don't care about ramping your opponent a little bit if you get their most threatening thing off of the board. And it's so cheap to use that the legendary clause, like, all of them have that legendary clause where it costs less if you control legendary creatures. It's already so low. The idea that it's only going to go down to green no matter how many legends you control beyond the first. Yeah, no, this one has way too much utility to not consider. Did I spell it right? No, there's no U. I'm looking at the gun. That does not seem right. So, Seiju. Yep, okay. Branch, Bronze Cudgels, Bronze Plate Boar, Brute Suit. Alright, so there is Circuit Mender. We passed on the Filigree Familiar because Circuit Mender, creature types aside, is, a normally superior card to the Filigree Familiar in every way. If we give it out and we can take it back, like, we'll be able to draw the card while giving other players 2 life. If they can sacrifice it themselves, they'll get to draw the card, so we might want to be a little careful who we give it out to, but as long as we're more consistently drawing the card, giving other players 2 life to be the friendly version of the deck, and occasionally we can just let somebody draw a card off of our Circuit Mender. If we really need to make friends that badly, we can do that. I got a notice. Oh, hello there. Let's see. Yes, we're currently Comet of Legends. Ah, got it. Lots of O's. Comet of Legends. Ah, thank you for stopping by. I've actually just started streaming a couple weeks ago, and I was looking for something new and different, so I thought I might show the actual process of building a commander deck instead of just the finished product, like a lot of people that I saw on YouTube and Twitch were doing. So we're currently working on 2 different builds for Beamtown Bullies. One of which is going to be the more aggressive, trying to win the game as fast as it can, giving them the absolute worst creatures we can find, and another one that's going to be more political, more trying to make friends at the table, where we occasionally give away nice things, which is why we just added Circuit Mender as an option. You are the first person to stop by to say anything other than trying to sell more views and more followers as a bot. So thank you for stopping by and saying anything nice at all. It is greatly appreciated. Okay, so I tend to play more casually. I do have different power levels of decks. I will build more competitive decks, but not necessarily geared towards the CEDH scale. Mostly because I tend to still play in playgroups. I just want something at the higher end for when somebody stops by who has a more competitive deck, and that's what they have, because I just want to play them as close to on their level as I can get with what I have. Like, I think my more unfriendly deck is probably a Nin the Pain Artist deck that's focused primarily on taking infinite turns. Durnin. I am blanking. I am very bad at remembering the names of legends. Especially if they weren't in a standard build, so I'm not 100% sure which one Durnin is. Here. while we're talking, I will add the Dockside Chef since we need sack outlets for this deck. Recon Commander. What does Durnan actually do? That's usually how I remember which commanders are which from anything that was outside of a set that I drafted. I remember them more by their game text than their names, if I haven't played against them recently. Deals combat damage to a player. Discard a creature card to destroy target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Top 4 cards when attacking. Exiles the top 4 cards when attacking and gives them Undaunt. Oh! Oh, the Tavern Keeper from the Forgotten Realms Baldur's Gate one? Like the mono green guy? Okay. See, when you tell me what they do, I instantly know what one you're talking about. I have that problem with almost every legend that shows up specifically in a Commander product. Yeah, I can see that shaving like 2 to 3 off the casting cost of relatively cheap creatures anyway, just to get them into play faster. It seems anytime you shave that much mana off of the casting cost of something that doesn't start at like 8 or 9, just lets you be very efficient. Even the ones you start off at 8 or 9, if you can cast your, Ulamog like 5 turns sooner. Puts counters on things. Don't think we care about Harabi. Etchings of Kumano. Which, because there's a Kodama for like 4 different directions and the central tree. Are we trying to do... I'm assuming we're doing the one that when you put a permanent into play, based on the casting cost, you can put another one from your hand. Yeah, I think that's the East Tree. Okay, yeah. Ashaya for 2 mana. Oh, Ashaya is so dumb if they don't have... If they can't punish you for your creatures also being lands, that does so much work. Speaking of things that do work, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Of the Mirror Breaker. Yeah, we're gonna add Fable to the deck, primarily because of the discard 2 and draw 2. Top deck tutors work perfectly with him. Right, so using Worldly Tutor and whatnot to put the creatures that you want to get on top at the time. No, he sounds like a very powerful deck. I think you would do very well with him once you have him built. Okay. Let's see, you're mono green, so if you're running out of gas for your deck, so you've got, for a green card draw, Harmonize, Shaman's Trance, the 2/3 from Ravnica, that's 4 mana, lets you draw a card every time you cast a creature spell. There's, I believe there's a 4/5, the Storyteller, also lets you draw a card every time you cast a creature spell. Okay. scrolling while I'm reading. Return an enchantment you control to gain 3 lives. Turn target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, we're gonna add Gloom Shrieker as another Eternal Witness variant. I think we care about the Goshintais. Alright, there's Greater Tanuki for the cycling. Can send the deck list. I'm still relatively new to this. I don't actually have a Discord yet. Like, I have not set that up or anything, so I'm not sure how you would send me the deck list for it. I forget if you're allowed to post it in chat. By Whisper. Okay, that would work. Yeah, if you want me to take a look at it. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't play super competitive Commander. I have played against competitive Commander decks before, but most of my deck builds are more in the middle ground. Like, just good enough to keep up with all of the people I expect to play against and not overwhelm them, and a couple of stronger decks, just in case we get a new player who only runs these stronger decks. Let's see. I think to look at my whispers, I would have to be on Twitter. Go to my channel. Yeah. Alright. We got Fraley's, Karn Great Creator, Nisa Who Shakes the World, Shepherd, Arbor Elf, Argothian Elder. Is that the one that untaps things? I am blanking on him. Ashaya, Zusa Lost But Seeking. Oh, there's Beast Whisperer. Okay, so you already have that one. Birds of Paradise, Craterhoof, Archdruid, Mystic, Reclaimer, Spirit Guide, Visionary. Oh, he's the one that just untaps lands. Yeah, there's another one that's slightly more expensive that can untap other things, but I think he requires too much mana. Endurance, Ewit, Findorn Elves, Acolyte, Kodama the East Tree, Lalmore, Magus of the Candelabra, Manglehorn, Marwyn, Priest of Titania, Quirion Ranger, Reclamation Sage, Regal Force, Scavenging Ooze, Scrib Ranger, untaps things, Sylvan Safekeeper, Terastodon, Walking Ballista for when you get your infinite mana. You have a Nature's Herald, Recovery, Farseek, Finale of Devastation, Green Sun Zenith, Natural Order, Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, Regrowth, Sylvan Tutor, and 3 Wishes. Autumn's Veil, Beast Within, Chord of Calling, Crop Rotation, Nature's Claim, Noxious Revival, Return of the Wild Speaker, Shared Summons, Veil of Summer, and Worldly Tutor. Altar of the Brood, Arcane Signet, Chrome Mox, Cloudstone Curio, Mana Crypt, Mox Diamond, Top, Ring, Staff, Sword. Running Carpet of Flowers, Concordant, Guardian Project, Library, Utopia Sprawl, Wild Growth, Blast Zone, Boseiju, Dryad Arbor, Emergent Zone. Okay, you do have a Cradle, Gemstone Caverns, Hall of the Bandit Lord, Misty, Nykthos, Prismatic, Verdant, War Room, Windswept, Wirewood, Wooded Foothills, and Yavimaya. Alright. Alright, so most of your guys are little, so the drawing cards based on the number of 4-power creatures you have aren't going to help. I'm trying to remember what the name of the 5. There is a 5-drop version that is the same as the Beast Whisperer that would help you draw more cards. It's a 4/5, and I'm blanking super hard on what its name is now. Let's see. There's the enchantments. No, he's just based on casting creatures, very similar to the Beast Whisperer. It's a 5-mana creature. I want to say, I don't think it's Shadowmoor because it doesn't care about color. Maybe original Ravnica. Soul is the 6-drop one. There's actually a 5-mana 4/5 that does similar things. Let's see if we can go back here. Alright, so we were on Greater Tanuki. Let's give me a duplicate tab real quick. I'll see if I can find him. There we go. Gather, go back. Delete that. Get rid of all of those. So color is green. Add. Type is creature. Add. And where is game text? Rules text. Draw a card. Alright, let's see if we can find this guy. Selly, Alundo, Arctic Wolves, Argothian. There's Beast Whisperer. I will know him when I see him. He shows up in like my Rorick Thar deck, which is very, very creature focused. Cultivator. Daemogoth, no. Deepwood. Gargaroth. No. No. Back up a magic card. That's not very helpful. Patron. Guiltleaf. Glade Muse. Lunch. Pitchwillow. Gramotha. This is the one when you cast when a player casts non-creature spells, so that's not it. Yeah, it should be a 5-drop. That. One or more non. Oh no, that's the combat damage one. Alright, 1 page. Oh, come on. Nope. Keep going. I will find you eventually. Overbeing, Overgrown, Owl Shepherd, Portcullis. Is this him? Is it Primordial Sage? Is he a 6-drop? Ah, he is a 6-drop. I thought he was a 5-drop. Okay, that was the one I was thinking of, was the Primordial Sage. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may draw a card. Just looking at the deck, you have, like, all of the major things that I would immediately think of for it. So, just as a thing that I've read, like, 10 minutes ago, very quickly, I would say it looks perfectly fine. If I played more competitive EDH, I might have a more thorough understanding of what you're going to be playing against, like, be able to give you a more concrete, like, you should either drop these cards or look to add these cards into your deck. But like I said, occasionally I run into somebody who has something in the higher power level, and I have to break out like an actual combo control deck to play against them. But normally, when Stacks is around, okay. Uh, yeah, I definitely think you have enough like value cards in order to and ways to tutor for things and to get what you need when you need it. So there's not a whole lot of cards that immediately spring to mind. When you said you were running out of gas, I was trying to think of creatures that you could get that would let you draw more creatures while still being creatures themselves, and cards that would let you draw large numbers of cards at once in a mono green deck. Right, so as a 6 mana thing, you could reliably cast him for what, like 3 or 4 mana? Like, how big is your regular play group? Do you usually play against like 3 people, 4 people, 5 people? Okay, so you've got anything that costs 2 green and 4, you can reliably get down to 2 mana then? Alright, so in that case, the Sage will probably help you. Also, he's a cast trigger, so if you do play against any control decks, you will still get to draw all of the cards while he's in play, as long as they don't actually stop him from coming down. He is specifically that player controls. Okay. Kappa fits what our criteria are, so we're going to add the tech wrecker here. Okay, one more page. Don't really care for the March is all exile, right? To cast them, yeah. That's not going to help us. Our build. Our creature control gains death touch and lifelink. Yeah, that might be okay to give out when we're trying to be more friendly about things. Raid. Collections backside. Bring Earth new. Uh, yeah, I think. We still got a few more cards. We might be able to find something else. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Eh. Creature or planeswalker. Probably not for this deck. Don't really have the enchantments for Toad Rider. Oops. Accidentally right-clicking as I'm scrolling. 2 damage to any target. Nope. Sorry, Walking Skyscraper. Alright, that brings us to the end of the list. Alright. Well, we made it through 2 whole sets and 1 commander deck that really didn't have anything for us. But the important thing is, we actually got to talk to somebody who wasn't a bot trying to sell me more views and whatnot. So that was really nice. I do have to get ready for work soon, so I'm going to be ending it here. Thank you, Comet of Legends, for stopping by and talking about your deck with us. I hope I helped you out a little bit at least. And for anybody watching the VODs, have a good day also. Thank you very much. I really appreciate having somebody stop by and just talk and chat a little bit. It was actually a very enjoyable experience. Alright, so I'm going to be taking off now. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.